Hey everyone, your favorite store champion winner here. Today I'll be showing you how to play one of my main decks, Fire Silvie. Before we start learning, let's start by going over the differences between Spirit of Slime and Fire Spirit Slime builds. First, Spirit of Slime lets Silvie ignore basic element restrictions for slime cards. That means she has a variety of good cards that do a variety of things. She has good basic defensive cards like Slime Shield and Gather Slimes. Fire builds give up those defensive cards in favor of being able to use fire exclusive cards. Remember how I said it let Fire Silvie ignore basic element requirements of slime cards? Well, there are lots of non-slime fire cards that Silvie loves to run. Creative Shock lets you dump floating memory or slime cards in the discard pile while drawing you cards. Spirit of Slime Silvie has to wait until level 3 to get permanent removal cards. Spirit of Fire can run cards that do that right away. Lastly, the regular version is slower to get different element slime cards into the discard pile. The Fire variant is much better. So while the Slime version avoids Slime King, the Fire version tends to run it. Silvie's level 3 gives both variants access to the Advanced Element Slime cards, so the endgame tends to be the same. Since Fire could dump so many slimes into the discard pile so quickly, it tends to have a slightly faster Storm Slime combo. With that being said, which version is better? While the Spirit of Slime variant is considered the better of the two, the Fire version has one critical advantage. It's very good against the Spirit of Slime version. If your locals has a lot of people rocking Spirit of Slime Silvie, which it probably does, you might be surprised how often you can make top cut by switching to the Fire variant. Don't be fooled though, Fire is still a very good deck. Base Silvie gives you a buff counter to an animal or beast ally the turn she's materialized. You really need to try not to waste this opportunity to power something up. This deck does run Blissful Calling or Kind Beast Caller, so getting something out shouldn't be a problem. Just don't go running your support cards and not have enough to pay for an ally. Silvie's level 2 is tricky to use. Allies she can bring out before she gets Advanced Element tend to be on the weaker side, so she won't be able to draw 2 cards in most cases. As a matter of fact, she might not even be able to draw 1. Getting to level 3 quickly is the way to go. The Fire deck does have a tricky card it can play to help itself though. Silvie's level 3 is where it's at. First, you get a discount on the first slime ally you summon the turn Silvie level 3 comes into play. They also get 2 buff counters placed on them. I already brought up Silvie level 3 advancing Advanced Element Slimes, but we'll get into that combo later. Covenant of Thorns lets an ally take damage instead of Silvie. You can also throw this bad boy on an opponent's ally. This will make an opponent think twice about playing something with Immortality or buffing an ally too much. This card works best under Quicksilver Grail. You can place this under Quicksilver when you're too low level to use it, or shove something unplayable to screw with an opponent's head. Beastbond Boots keeps pressure on Arisana and Kongming. The turn you pop these, Razor Girl Kong will hurt your opponent instead of you. Beastbond Ears lets you cheat Pride requirements and can turn on Limitless Slime's better abilities. Verdant Scepter gives Silvie much more draw power. The buff effect isn't as important as tributing a slime, can trigger abilities like healing, floating memory, and possibly a board wipe. Gaia's Blessing is kind of in the same boat as Verdant Scepter. You can use its alternate effect to bring it out outside of the material phase. A lot of the time, you get a +1 card advantage because the card revealed from your deck will most likely be an animal or beast ally. What's really important is to power up Storm Slime. We'll get into that card later on. Stone Scale Band is one of the best material cards in the game. It does cost 1, but with all that floating memory Silvie has, that's not a huge deal. This card lets you cycle through cards in your hand to get Storm Slime or add more fuel to Slime Eruption. It can also build up your graveyard to play Gaia's Blessing. While Beast Soul Vistage has only shown up in a few Fire Silvie decks that I've topped, I want to point it out anyway, especially for budget players. You can place this card underneath Quicksilver Grill to turn one of your allies into a beast type. So if you place this on an animal type that your opponent failed to kill, you get 2 draws off Silvie level 2's effect. If you have high enough level, it can also act as a straight attack buff. Did your opponent attack Baby Grey Slime with an important ally? Reveal this card and retaliate to take them down. A lot of slimes have on-death abilities in this deck, so being able to use Cremation Ritual is just perfect. If you're against an opponent who doesn't use allies, you could just use this on your low-level slimes after their effects go off. You can use this card with cards that give you floating memory. Of course, you can always use this when you're desperate as well. Good targets are Dungeon Guide and Slime King. Cremation Ritual helps us turbo into Silvie level 3 by digging for Dungeon Guide. It can discard floating memory. If you're high enough level, it sets up Slime King. If you're very rarely going to have a card you don't mind sending to the graveyard. Alright, let's get into some combos here. The first is Baby Gray Slime. You can reveal 2 slimes in your hand and memory when you summon it to draw a card. As a little bonus, it has intercept, but nobody cares about that. If you don't have the next card involved in this combo, don't feel bad playing this little guy in a zone for the draw effect. Drawing an extra card for a 1/1 interceptor is pretty good. Escape the Wreckage puts Baby Gray in your memory and draws a card into your memory. Then Baby Gray's effect will trigger, allowing you to reveal itself in memory as part of the draw effect. Congratulations, you just cycled a bunch of cards to your deck and will be getting all the cards in your memory back to your hand for a massive card advantage next turn. Slime Eruption is another card that can be used for combos in this deck. Since we have more draw power and discard abilities than Norm Element Silvie, this card tends to be much more powerful. Getting 3 slimes in the graveyard is easy, and it can deal with problematic allies as it can hit them for 3 damage. This card combos with Storm Slime to deal a lot of damage. Also keep in mind, you can declare you're banishing 0 slime cards. This means you pay 1 just to use this card as floating memory. I think it's about time to get into Storm Slime. This is this deck's main win condition. As you heard me explain all these previous cards with banishing effects, you could tell Storm Slime's burn effect can escalate quickly. Don't disregard its secondary effect either. Playing it, burning with its effect, attacking with it, and then using Cremation Ritual on it nets you 4 cards from your deck that you can still use. Honestly though, a lot of time 1 Storm Slime is all it's going to take. Limitless Slime is this deck's check. What I mean by that is while it looks like it can win you games once you're level 3, it's still susceptible to removal effects. Think of it as something your opponent is forced to get rid of. You can play it early for floating memory, it's an excellent 2-3 ally when you're level 2, and at level 3 it puts pressure on your opponent and makes them waste their removal effects on Limitless Slime instead of your other allies. New key players need to be careful about playing Baby Red Slime because when you use it, its effect makes you draw into memory, not the hand. Discarding a Fire Elemental card brings its attack up to 3, so it's no joke. Not only will its effect help you with floating memory into your discard, but it will also be used to set up Slime King. Just keep in mind it's class bonus, so you can't use it with Fire Spirit. Some decks play Red Slime and some decks don't. While you might be able to play off the board wipe with Cremation Ritual, it's Pride 3, so it's a little slower to get going. It can be a double-edged sword as your opponent could trigger it to have your allies die as well as their own. It also works with Slime Eruption. Kind Beast Collar has pretty good stats for a 3-cost searcher. It's not an animal or beast type though, so it won't get a lot of this deck's bonuses. You can always run Gaia's Songbird if you're willing to wait a few turns for Silvie's bonuses. Usually people main deck one of these two, and it's up to you which is best. Blissful Calling is to Tamer what Fairy Whispers is to Wind. It's a low cost and wide range of cards it can bring to your hand means it's usually going to be good at any stage of the game when you play it. Lastly, before we get into the advanced element slimes, some builds of this deck like to run floating memory cards. Stalwart Shieldmate seems to be a favorite as it helps protect Silvie and her companions for the fact that we can't run Slime Shield. Remember to take advantage of your discard or sacrifice abilities with this card. You might want to try keeping cards in your graveyard for Slime King. Slime King requires you to banish 3 different element slimes from your graveyard to summon him. The catch is that when he dies, you can summon the 3 slimes you banished. The slimes he brings out can get their own on-enter effects, so things can escalate quickly, especially since we could trigger Slime King ourselves. He's a fairly big taunter as well. Ethereal Slime shows Crux is fine. Since it has stealth and its own ability to draw a card and give itself a buff counter, this might be the best choice for using Silvie level 3's free summon on. A 5/5 with stealth at true sight is hard to deal with. Lastly is Lustrous Slime. This slime's pride effect might seem bad, but don't ignore its taunt ability. It can make itself stronger by revealing slime cards from memory, so I really try to avoid bringing it out with Silvie level 3's free effect. You really want to try to play around this guy being last so that he can get maximum value out of his effect. Some decks can suppress this card, so if you're low on health and that you have good board presence, feel free to use Cremation Ritual on it to trigger its healing effect. If you're not sure which Recollection deck to buy, I have another video on how to play Tristan. Feel free to comment on a deck you'd like a tutorial on, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye!